about a eminent historic civilizations is the Maya civilizations. It's what thought that the Maya can predict the futures and also their research that they have created tools that more than centuries of modern. So our presentations will provide you knowledge about that. These presentations will last about like 8 to 10 minutes, and if you have any questions, please ask us in the end of our talks. Our teams today involve 3 participations, which is me, Quang, this Minh and Trang. And these presentations will be divided into 5 parts. We start with when and where these civilizations developed, how long it was in existence, the major achievement and figures, disappearance, and with the famous remains of the civilizations today. So let's move to the first part, which I'm going to talk about, is the time and locations of these civilizations. The Maya civilization appeared around the 1800 BC, which they extended throughout the present day in the Mesoamerica, which also known as the consist of some Mexican states, Guatemala, Belize, northern El Salvador, and western Honduras. Let's move to the next part with Minh will present.
Hello everyone, my name is Minh, and now let's talk about the time when the Mayan civilization was in existence. So to begin with, here we have a diagram of the general structure of the Mayan society. As you can see here on the top, there's a king, also known as the high priest, who rule over a city or a region, and he had the absolute power. Under the king is a council. They're often the part of the royal family, and they supported the king in decision making and ruling over the people. Moving on, we have the nobles, and they are the wealthy, and they have a lot of power in the Mayan society. We also have the merchants and artisans who created the goods that are traded and consumed during this time. At the bottom of the pyramid are the commoners, the farmers, and also the slaves. They have very little to no power in the society, and they are often treated very badly. So here we have a brief timeline of the history of the civilization, which is divided into 3 main periods. The early period, which dated back to 1800 BC and lasted until 250 AD. And the following period is the classic period, from 250 AD to 900 AD. And lastly is the disappearance of the Mayan civilization around the 9th and 10th century. So during the early period, there were a lot of developments in agriculture. People started to come together and started to form the earliest villages. Moving on to the classic period, it is considered the golden age of the Mayan Empire because of many reasons that I'm going to talk about. So during this periods, there were a lot of advancements. The cultivation of staple crops such as mainly corn, and also the emergence of hieroglyphic writing. And during this time, the Mayan civilization grew to about 40 cities, with each holding anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000 people. And at its peak, the Mayan Empire population may even reach to 2 million or even 10 million people. And the Mayans were deeply religious. They worshipped gods that related to nature, such as the sun god, the moon god, the rain, and the corn god. And although many consider the Maya civilization to have ended around the 9th century, a lot of research projects have shown that although the civilization in the lowlands were certainly vanished, but in the highlands of Yucatan, some cities managed to survive and continue to flourish until the Spanish invasion in the 16th century. And the year 1697 witnessed the fall of the last Maya city. And so that's the end of my part, and now let's move on to the next part.
I'm Trang, and I'm going to tell you about the noticeable accomplishments of the Maya civilization. The Mayans were very skilled in math and science, which is a very interesting thing to note about, considering that they existed from the 1800 BC and the 900 AD. Their solar calendar were the most well-known and also the most accurate calendar system in the ancient civilization. They also are the ones who invented the concept of zero. What is special about this is that they have a structure of lines and dots, which symbolizes today's modern numbers. They also knew about astronomy way more than other civilizations at the time. This image right here is actually a representation of an astronomer in the Mayan civilization culture. He has an eye that is looking out to the stars. They also documented and seen the movements of stars and planets and recorded the records in a very pinpoint accuracy. They also developed a very sophisticated system of writing. Outside of that, they also showed advanced cultural traits such as pyramid buildings, stone monument carvings, and also city building.
Besides their achievements, the Maya civilizations also well known for their major figures. And in the period of the 655 to the 734, the most remarkable individuals was the Lieu Chen the first. He was the ruler of the Maya city of Tikal, and he also knows for interesting in art and architecture, who was responsible for the buildings of such a renowned temple like the Temple of the Giai. He also the one who reformed the political structure of the Maya civilizations. The next one is the Tekken humans, who lives around the 15,000s to the 1524, and he was the last ruler of the Cage Maya people. He lived in the highlands, of what is now the Guatemala, and he was a revolutionary. He fought against the Spanish invaders, and until his death in the Battle of El Pino. So after that, he became the national hero of the Guatemala. The last one who was living in the modern society is his fellow Carlo Puerto. He was a Mexican journalist and also a revolutionary who was distinguished for his effort as a reconciliation between the Mexican government and their Mayan people after a war. And he spoke Mayans and also sought to keep the Mayan culture alive throughout his newspaper and journals. Mayan civilizations is very well known, though they have a mysterious disappearance. The civilizations completely collapsed for like virtual unknown reasons, and regardless, the major cities also abandoned in the 9th centuries, and no one really know why. There are various theories have been like considered, usually including like disease, trade collapse, social turmoil, invasion, and drought. Though disappeared, Maya civilizations has left behind a lot of priceless remains.
As you can see here, we have pictures of 4 cities that some of the most renowned remains and ruins of the civilization. First, we have Chichen Itza, which is regarded as one of the new 7 wonders of the world. It is one of the largest cities at that time, and also one of the main highlights of the site is the pyramid of El Castillo. It's a step pyramid that was built to represent the Mayans' knowledge of astronomy. And moving on, we have Tulum, a coastal city, which served as a gateway that connected the Yucatan Peninsula to the people of Honduras and other places in the Gulf of Mexico. And here we have Coba, which is a very large city at that time. And today, only a small percentage of the site has been fully excavated, and scientists have estimated that it is one of the biggest Mayan city at that time, with an area of up to more than 30 square miles. And one of the most well-known attraction of the city is the pyramid of Nahapo. It was made of steep and slippery stone steps. And finally, we will be talking about Palenque, which is a very impressive city at that time. The most attractive buildings of it is the temples of the inscriptions, which contains hundreds of hieroglyphics. And also, especially the site was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. And here are some of the websites that we use for our research. You can note these down and maybe look it up after if you want to find out more about the Mayan civilization. And so here's the end of our presentation. And do you guys have any questions? And don't be shy to ask first. Yes?
Right, so during your presentation you mentioned about science and mathematic situations for the Maya civilization. So can you tell me more about like which of these science and mathematical contributions actually got appreciated and got used in the modern world, and what is like only the contribution in the Maya civilization and is not ever used anymore?
Excuse me for.
Yeah.
As we have mentioned, the Mayan civilization had many major achievements, and some of them are still used today as the concept of zero, and they're also very advanced in maths, and a lot of their theories are still used today by scientists. And also their hieroglyphic writing that created a foundation for modern day writing as well. And also, besides that, their system of solar calendar is inspired people to like inspire modern people still use nowadays.
So any questions?
You mentioned about future-predicting differs from the transition. Can you give me some examples and evidence about their future predictions?
Like, pardon? Can you say that again?
At first, you mentioned the future prediction of Mayas, isn't it? And I want some evidence on and examples of their prediction about future.
Yes. The Maya civilization is really well known for their predictions. Or the most famous example is for the astronomy. When they can predict about the stars and the universe, and there are many research about it on the internet. We have give some source here. But they have also they have the basic predict about the universe, and they have looking for the star you can see.
I also want to say a little thing that you guys must have heard about the 2012 events that related to the Maya. Scientists say that their calendar ends in 2012, so they relate that to the apocalypse, and that whole event have been made into a film. So that's one of the most famous examples of the prediction ability of the Mayans. You guys have any questions?
Yes.
Among the four remains you have mentioned, which one do you think is the most famous?
I think it is the Chichen Itza, because it was a stunning city, and the whole site was visited by millions of tourists each year. And also it is regarded as one of the new seven wonders of the world. So I think it is the most well-known, and it is the most popular site of the Mayan civilization.
As you mentioned in the past of society, who was under the king and what they really do?
Okay, so as you can see here, right under the king is a council, also called the priesthood. So there are members of the royal family that often gave advice for the king, and also helped him with ruling the country, because as you know, if only a single man cannot rule an entire empire or an entire country, so it is important that there are people that supports him. And yeah, I think that's the main role of the council, to maybe help the king with his work, and to so if no one have any more questions, then that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.